I want to kick this thing off, and I think probably the best place to do it is, March 11th. Our world's collectively changed. I'll remember where I was at, just like I remember the Challenger or 9/11, right? I was watching a basketball game, and they just kind of stopped everything. There was a lot of uncertainty going on. Um, what was your moments individually when you guys knew that this thing was taking a new life and that this was going to be something that would turn our world upside down?
It's Chris Connolly. So, I guess I'll start in being general manager of the Iowa Event Center. For us, it really was that night, that Wednesday night, that Rudy Gobert tested positive, from the Utah Jazz, and the string of things that happened right after that. For us in our world here at the Iowa Event Center, we're right in the middle of the Boys State high school basketball tournament. So a lot of things started to happen that Wednesday night. Gobert tests positive. The NBA immediately suspends their season. You get into that next day, the Thursday, where it was unique for us in that, we had to make a decision at 7:30 in the morning whether to continue as normal with the Boys State tournament or not. And our doors opened at 9 o'clock and first game tipped at 10. So if you guys think back to that day, that Thursday, even the Big East tournament, they played a full half of basketball before that was called off. So unfortunately for us, in terms of timing, we had to make a decision. We moved forward as normal. And then halfway through the day, we kind of saw all the other major events being canceled, right? So that really stuck home for me. And that was the moment saying, hey, we're in the middle of something pretty bad here. That was my moment.
Yeah, I can. Ours was a little bit different. We actually lagged probably a week and a half, I would say. There was so much uncertainty. There was, fear, I think, was creeping in, but hadn't yet caught a hold. And so about a week and a half later is when it really hit us. People were starting to watch the news every night or every day. Our employees started getting fear. And that's when our leadership team got together. We decided, okay, let's get together. And we need to start talking to our people right now, right? We started that Thursday, but we really got serious that next week of spreading what we were going to do, how we were going to move forward, because the news was just so crippling for a lot of our people that, we're going in customers' houses every single day. We're touching a lot of things and being around a lot of people. So we got on top of it, and luckily we did, because we had 4 with underlying health issues that kind of set back, but the rest of the company, we moved forward and got people going. So like I said, for the customers, the call volume kept going, and then that a week and a half later is when we had to really get intentional about how we were going to run our business.
Yeah, for me, it's funny. It's actually kind of similar to what Chris said, because we're an Ankeny Hawks family. And so the Ankeny Hawks boys were still rolling through the tournament, and we were actually as a family, 7 of us in Chicago, streaming on our phones the game, and our kids had friends with kids that were playing, their families, and knowing that the limited amount of people that could attend the game, and so many times, and know what the atmosphere can be like, and seeing what it looked like with hardly anybody in there. And it was just so surreal. We're sitting here, streaming it on a phone like most people are, and a few people sitting in the stands, and it's like, this is different. This is different. And I agree, the news just so out there, and definitely created a lot of early fear too, along with it. You could just feel the tide kind of coming. But the game was actually, for me too, it really felt like things were changing.
Speaking of changes, what things on a day-to-day level have changed for you and your roles? So obviously some operational things have had to change. Chris, in your case, maybe the most drastic changes. But from a day-to-day level, what has changed? Are you, lifting up staff members more? Are you being more cognizant of, communicating with the leaders on your team and just staying present for people that are working remotely? What are some of those day-to-day changes you're seeing?
Sure. And I think it comes in different levels. When this first hit, we realized that we were going to be forced to shut the facility down. No more hosting events, getting people to work remotely from home. So I think the first thought and the biggest change was safety. Okay, it's like, How do I make sure everybody's safe? How can we be efficient in what we're doing, and how can we continue working? So that was the first piece. And, you know, and you guys know at the Iowa Event Center, I mean, we're an event business. We're event driven. So that's a major part of our business. So to really have 85% of our staff really go home and work remotely from home, to make sure that everybody was able to do that. Are they efficient? What are they working on? All that kind of good stuff. So safety first, then keep our folks working. I mean, we're more than just putting on events. I mean, in that first week or two with so much uncertainty, it was events immediately being canceled or postponed, then being rescheduled. And, you know, it's on both sides, the convention center and the arena. So I would tell most people that in the first couple of weeks that this thing hit, my 8 to 5 workday has been more intense than anything else. So it's, you're canceling events, your staff is safe, you're canceling and rescheduling events. And then you get into the mode where, like, wow, you know, this probably could go on for a period of time here. How do we stay sustainable, right? And there's some of the things that I'm looking at on a daily basis. We're running forecast, financial projections. Do we need to make changes? Does staff need to be cut? Does staff need to be furloughed? And really that has been my world for the last month. And that is very different from this time of year in March and April at the Iowa Event Center. That's our busiest time of the year in terms of hosting events with the state tournaments, and you're talking hockey playoffs and basketball playoffs and concerts and all that kind of good stuff. That kind of goes away, and we start to get into the world of dealing with this coronavirus situation, knowing that we're going to be stalled for a period of time. How can we work, still be effective, keep everybody going, knowing that we come out of this, we got to hit the ground running. So my world has drastically changed, and it's really just trying to get through this time and trying to get my staff through this time, stay positive, stay safe. And it's just very, very different. We're not going to be able to host events for a long time, and that's really what our business is. And that's a harsh reality, but really just getting through that, supporting folks, staying positive, and then still being efficient, you know, as we're operating the venue on behalf of Polk County and making sure Polk County sees that. So that's really my deal.
Mark, on your end, you know, I've used your story in your industry as an example for people that are, you know, really questioning, you know, where are there opportunities for growth in advertising and marketing? And I say, well, furnaces are still going to break. Air conditioning units still need serviced. It's still going to get warm in Iowa. And so still, though, I would assume day-to-day operations, or maybe because of unemployment, that some things have changed in terms of the amount of calls. Is that true, or have you seen a pretty steady flow or increase in business?
Yeah, the business right now has kind of picked back up. You know, when the news of the 2-week shutdown, you know, quarantine for 2 weeks that we're coming a week out of, and now they're projecting that the peak is still yet to come. But we've seen a dip in calls right there the last, you know, 2 weeks before this week. Because everybody was just so uncertain. It said quarantine for the next 2 weeks. So we had a lot of customers on our system checks and stuff like that, where we go out and check the air conditioner. They're like, well, let's wait 2 weeks and then we'll come. On the other side, on the plumbing side, it was, they're in their house full time, right? You got families of 2 to 6 to 10 people in the house using the systems all day long, which is not normal for their system to go through. So the plumbing actually spiked, which was good for us. So what we had to focus on, not so much more of the calls, is the PPE of how do we go to the customer's home? How do we make them feel comfortable? So we actually shot a video that when call us, this video will go out to you saying the precautions we're going to take. We have once we get there, we have an agenda. So they start with the greet step. Well, that's normally done shaking the customer's hand inside the door, putting the booties on. That is now outside the front stoop, right? And then we explain, has anything in the house changed? Has anybody felt sick, or going through this stuff that you would have never dreamed of going through as far as questions. And then this is the precautions. We have hand sanitizer. We bleach our tools after every single call, so you can feel rest assured that you're going to be not going to have any contaminations. We take the We have Clorox wipes. We wipe the iPads. We've came up with a process to where they don't have to sign 3 times. They can only sign once, or their dispatch can call them and do the signing. So just reassuring the customer that social distancing is going to happen while we're in the call. And we're sending that out on social media. We're email blasting that to our customers just to let them know that, hey, it's safe for us to come to your house. We're taking extra precautions. So it's kind of leveled that curve.
I figured the plumbing was taking a hit anyway, just from the excessive use of toilet paper at some point. I mean, what do you do with the toilet paper? You know, it's funny that I can't help it, but a moment of levity. We've decided, and I think Jeff might have coined this, a true sign of financial superiority and power in your neighborhood right now would be if you went out and TP'd your neighbors' houses. That would really be showing what you have.
You're a baller at that point.
That's right.
So Josh, I know the credit union had to make some pretty significant changes. I mean, shutting down lobbies couldn't have been an easy decision to make, but one that, at some point you just had to do, right?
No, it's difficult because you still want to be able to serve your members, but like a lot of businesses, what's great for the financial services industry and Community Choice is, we've prepared because of the digital services we already offer. So realistically, it's been a long time coming and a lot of conversation for a lot of retail organizations and banks and credit unions or retail organizations is what's the future viability of your physical locations, and that's being tested right now, right? And so realistically, for quite a while, I've argued that for financial institutions, ours included, if we don't figure out different ways to create unique and new experiences within those facilities, they're going to become money museums. And you're seeing that accelerate right now. I mean, people are shifting. They were already using digital services. Some of the people that weren't as accustomed to using it has been a little tougher. But we still have our drive-ups open, and it's considered an essential service. So we're doing what we can to minimize exposure and keep health of our teammates. But those are still available, and there's some regulation challenges too, right, that we're working through. And I think we'll see some relief there. For example, if you're doing mortgages, you still need a wet signature. But some of the regulations have probably improved to where those can become a little more digital. But closing down the lobbies, actually, it was a tougher decision from the standpoint of wanting to be able to serve the members. Pretty easy decision from the standpoint of taking care of staff, and then going back to when you were asking, what do you do when this thing starts hitting? I think we shifted a bit of our goals. I kind of outlined to our board, and I said, our goals are like this right now. We're going to minimize the health risk to our teammates. That's number one. And then we're going to continue to provide essential services to our members that's needed within the community. You go to the grocery store, you need to buy your groceries, you're still going to need to be able to pay for them, right? That's important. And then, find, like Chris was mentioning, find ways to keep the entire staff productive, right? The more we can get out of our team today, the more that team can grow through this and into the future. Ideally, we don't want to have to get into a position where we're looking at, do we have positions that we can no longer keep busy? And then, another big one is that I think is once you manage, another thing is I want to retain our fun, our culture, and our uniqueness through this. We have to. That's my biggest concern as this thing goes on is people's mental well-being, and making sure they're staying positive, that we're remaining calm. And I don't think in a situation, any crisis, that you can over-communicate. I think Mark was mentioning that. Your communication even becomes stronger and you over-communicate. But all that, the other thing that sometimes gets lost, and it's one of our goals as well, is to continue to grow through this. If we believe as an organization we have something unique, and I'm sure that all of us on this call believe that we do, if we have something unique to offer to our customers, members, to the community, then it should be incumbent upon us to continue to grow through this and beyond this, so that way we can even expand that further when we're done with this. So that's one thing. You do the kindness efforts, and you speculate and you make expectations on where you think things are going, but then you got to look for opportunities too from a business standpoint. Everybody that's running a business, I still think one of your number one goals is that you are here to make sure that the business you're in charge of is relevant beyond your existence at that business.
That's well said, Josh.
So speaking of that, and speaking of morale specifically, what are some things that you're doing as leaders to either check in by text or by video? What are things you're doing culturally as a company to keep that sense of community, right? I mean, I think what this has shown me is I took for granted the collaboration and communication and connection that I have with my coworkers. It's as great as technology is, as great as a call is like this, being able to, have a beer with the three of you guys and have this discussion would be a lot better. This is a close second, but how do you try to mimic or replace that lack of physical connection? What have you guys been doing to keep morale high and keep people connected?
Hey, it's Chris. I'll go. I think one of the bigger things that we've been doing really are calls like these virtual calls where we're getting everybody together. I'll tell you, and that's why I'm sitting in my office right now, is that the more of a routine that you can keep that's closer to the norm, I think the better. People are more productive that way. Some folks are stuck in their house. They have kids. They have a lot of responsibilities. So if for that hour we can have a department or staff call and talk, that is really good because that keeps us on our normal schedule per se. You're not seeing that person physically in front of you, but you're seeing them through the screen. And we can all discuss business and go through our normal business. But one of the things that we've done specifically here at the Iowa Event Center is with a lot of our calls, all right, well, at the end of your report, talk to us about something good that's going on in your life. Make it personal, right? And it should be like that anyway. And I think that, and I'm guilty of this as well, we get running and we're working and we're hosting a million events. We don't take the time to talk about the good stuff. It's almost like, thanks, we're on to the next thing. And that's not personal. Well, now with this whole coronavirus situation, it's forced us to slow down, even as a society. And we have time to do some things that you wouldn't normally have had time before to do. So I think for us, it's continuing to keep these calls going, the virtual calls. A lot of our folks, we have an employee experience committee where we're doing virtual calls that aren't business. Maybe it's a virtual happy hour, it's something else. Keeping that connection because you're physically not seeing people day to day anymore. And I think that's important. And I would just say on top of that too, is that now that we have some time, Josh talked a little bit about it, and Mark, I mean, what good can we do now that we have some extra time? And, we have a couple initiatives that we've been working on, Chilling for Charity is one of them, where we developed a pretty cool Wells Fargo Arena ticket that really just gives your slogans, Chilling for Charity, be a hero, stay at home, practice social distancing. And we just launched this on our website with a minimum $10 donation. You can donate as much as you'd like. We're over $2,500 in less than 4 days of this thing being launched. And it's a neat thing. We're mailing the ticket to you. People can have it and they can look at it as a positive thing. Hey, we got through this together. We're doing all the right things. I got a ticket to prove it. And then that money's going to go to the Polk County Health Department. Polk County owns our facility. Those folks need it more than anyone else. So that's one side of it. And that was a team effort. That's marketing, that's box office, that's premium seating, that's finance. It's all of our folks have an input on this campaign, and then on the other side of it too, it's our industry. Like we look at all these local artists, they're suffering. Like they can't play their gigs. They can do some virtual things, but they don't have a source of income. So we've kind of rolled out this Local Music Monday where we're featuring some of these local artists virtually, and just really it's a way of promotion, saying, hey, these guys are out here, they're talented. Play a couple songs, talk to the crowd, get it up online. And I think that's important because, again, all of our staff's involved in that. We're pushing it. And it's just another thing to bond over. And again, without going through something like this, I don't know that we would have these opportunities. So just being positive and taking a look at it that way. But the virtual world, we've embraced it. And if we didn't have this, we wouldn't be able to see anybody. And I think that would be a real shame. But it's really just trying to spruce up the virtual communication with our staff, encouraging people. I'm telling you, with each report ending on one good thing, one positive. And I think that's really gone a long way in my office.
I like that a lot, that idea of closing your communication with something positive. And to me, the positive attitude has been the biggest thing I've tried to share with team members. Is like, that's the one thing we can control, right? I think, Josh, you sent out a message at one point. It was, unplug. Take some time to unplug from news. Take some time to unplug from, this constant barrage of, the terrible stuff that's going on, and just spend time with the people that you love and they're doing what you love. So I think that's important too. Mark, in your case, the majority of your folks are going in the homes of other people, right? So is there any fear there? How do you alleviate that? How do you keep people positive when they're, and safety is obviously the number one thing, but is there anything culturally you've done or anything to provide just a lift for those folks?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we thought a lot about that. What's that look like? We wanted to answer the employees' questions before the employee had to think about it, right? So that comes back to what Chris and Josh have talked about, the constant contact, the virtual communication. I've done handwritten notes with gift cards in them because they're out there driving around. That way they can lunch on me type of deal. That's something I would have never done. A handwritten note, I don't do that anymore. Most people don't do that anymore, and mail it to their home so their whole family gets it. We've got a good response from that. Really appreciation for that. And then anybody that works over 32 hours in our company gets guaranteed 40 hours of pay, and then they get $100 spiff on top of that each week. Whether it's just an appreciation pay, you're out there, taking safety precautions to provide for your family and putting yourself at risk at some point anyway. So just, employees that they're uncertain about the pay, going into this 2 weeks ago, a lot of them didn't know how they were going to, afford to pay their bills, pay their mortgages, stuff like that. So knowing that they're going to get guaranteed 40 hours and another $100 spiff, which is over $2 an hour.
We're definitely cat of a different color, if you will. So we've always had the ability to be a little bit unusual, a little silly at times and fun. And so a situation like this really lends itself to us in that vein. And we really took our BD team, instead of going out and looking for opportunities to connect within the community entirely and other businesses, is had them look internally and really be the culture club, if you will. So through that, we've done a lot of things like everybody else, and Chris mentioned virtual happy hours. We've went as far as virtual karaoke. We tested You Don't Know Jack through Steam and be able to do that, do trivia. We've mailed stuff to everybody's house. Today I just got, because it's color week, so each week now is a theme. And so that way it's just keeping our intranet going. I just got a bunch of, what's the word I'm looking for? Tie-dyed shirts. And it has a message on and a handwritten note that came in the mail. And so we've been doing that. We can't do volunteer time off at places like we'd like to. So we arranged to get fleece out to people's houses that wanted to. And we're making 50 fleece blankets to go to places of people that are in temporary housing situations. As you know, Jeff, we worked to try to get some money back to food bank. We've also went and took all of our tellers. We have a lot of tellers that work for us, and we're giving each teller $100 every week for 4 weeks, which is a sizable amount of money. And then the only thing we're asking is that they go and shop locally. Go buy something to eat, go shop somewhere locally, wherever that is. And then the only thing we ask is share it with our staff. Let us know where you went. And I think that's been received pretty well. So, a lot of things everybody else is doing, and we're just doing it in our kind of fun, unusual, and goofy behavior, if you will. I've seen some pretty, I think there's a trivia, cosmic trivia. I don't even know what cosmic trivia is, but when you put cosmic in front of it, it must be better. But morale's actually been pretty high, so I feel pretty blessed for
that. I couldn't agree more. I think it's important to now more than ever let the people that we work with know we're there. Phone calls instead of text. I mean, texts are fine, but phone calls. I love the handwritten message thing. But I think there's, depending on how long this thing goes, there's going to be a fatigue. And I think a lot of people initially love the idea of remote work, working from home, and then it dawns on them. It's like, well, crap, I can't just go into my coworker's office and shoot the breeze and spitball an idea. So even as nice as technology is, I think there'll be some fatigue there. And so I think these ideas you guys have and the things you're doing are incredibly impactful. I want to shift gears a little bit, and this, Chris, feel free to chime in, but this might pertain more to Mark and Josh from a marketing and advertising side. So we've had some businesses that we work with pump the brakes. We've had some businesses, and I know, Josh, you aspire to this, that put their foot on the gas and said, where are there opportunities to position our brand, to position our products, and especially with local local media, whether it's TV, radio, outdoor, whatever it is, supporting them, but also taking advantage of the fact that some people are pulling money. Not a lot of restaurants are advertising right now, so there's inventory. What are your thoughts on advertising in a situation like this, in an economy and in a environment that we're in?
I run first. The Marks will probably be more impactful, but we'll probably be pretty similar if you don't mind. It's funny having conversations with people in this environment. It's tough, right? You're doing the things that you're supposed to take care of people, make sure they're healthy, do the kind things, do the right things for your customers, your members, whatever. Do all those things. But again, having an eye on business matters. Prior to this crisis, it was a very hyper competitive marketplace, very hyper competitive, right? On all channels, everybody firing for not only to gain awareness, but for business and fighting with one another to get their share. And right now, you're going to have a lot of people that'll retreat, and you're going to have people that'll retreat not because they should, some because maybe there's some financial strain, and it's the first thing they think of to cut is the marketing. Some because there'll be some paralysis; they're not sure what to do or how long this is going to go, so they make lack of decision. It's indecision, and then there'll be a few that'll basically, if you will, come out of their shell, right, and start talking to people, whether it is messages of support and kindness and keeping their brand out there, or it is talking about products that can make a difference. Because one thing is you can get a lot of things in order right now with the time that you have. But you're still going to shop. You can get your finances in order. You can get your house in order. You can get everything in order, right? So you should still have needs. I think personally, and actually it's been proven, and there's plenty of case studies on it. Any business that actually doubles down on its communication efforts, including marketing, during a crisis, gains market share outside of the crisis. Absolutely. And I think of it to be honest, and Mark, maybe you're feeling this too. From HVAC, I was just talking to somebody about this HVAC, and I was asking them, they were in Milwaukee. I said, "What are you seeing a lot of communication about it from HVAC companies right now?" And they said there is quite a bit. I said, wow, it seems smart to me, right? Because just like I would assume, and I don't know your business, but like from a financial institution standpoint, TOMA, top of mind awareness matters, right? It matters. I would think it matters in HVAC. It matters when it comes to garage doors or whatever. When something's going to go wrong, like you mentioned, Jeff, my garage door is going to break, my furnace, my AC, whatever the case is, who's in my head first? When I have an issue financially or there's something I'm trying to accomplish, who am I going to think of? And for us, if we're not in one of those top positions for some people, we'll lose market share, right? And therefore, we lose market share and don't expand market share. We ultimately become irrelevant. And in a financial institution world, irrelevancy leads to insolvency, and insolvency leads to you're done doing business and you can no longer help people in the community. So I think it's been proven time and time again that businesses that have the ability and the wherewithal, the thought process to double down on their communication efforts during a crisis come out much stronger.
Mark, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that. I agree 100% with what Josh said. Jeff and I worked a little bit together back in, started to, I guess, 10 years ago, so the 07, 08. And we were fairly new. We'd only been in business 8 years at that point. We're competing with a lot of our competition that's been here for 70 years, right? So we doubled down. At that point, one guy told me, guy from New York that I'd been talking to, he said, most people undervalue how much it costs to ramp back up versus staying the course. So they think they're saving themselves by shutting down, cutting some costs, saving. Well, the business they lose, like you said, top of mind awareness. Nobody's hearing about you for a while. You can't afford to do that. So it's costing you triple to try to get back up when everybody else is trying to get back up and your message is lost. So back in 07, 08, we were fairly small. We didn't have the money at that time, but we put our foot down and all right, we're going to invest in this and we're going to be out there. And that we came out of that with a lot more market share, and we've been growing 15 to 20% ever since then. It spiked there, and then we kind of leveled out, but we've been growing ever since, and that's because our name was able to just jump out on the board and get a stake on the board in that time. And we're doing the same thing this time. It's a little bit different now because we can actually be a little bit more aggressive and play a little bit more offense. Like, you go through the fear stage, right? In the beginning, it's fear. You got a day. Well, you can only allow that fear to last a day to a few days as a leader of your organization. And then you got to make a decision what you're going to do. And we decided, okay, we're going to be aggressive and we're going to play some offense here. So it's kind of adding a little bit more fun back into it, right? When you can play offense when everybody else is playing defense and trying to figure out what costs they're going to cut, who they're, let's go out and play some offense here and change the industry as we know it, hopefully.
Yeah, I love that.
That's it, right? I love what you're saying. I mean, people talk about the idea is when the gun fires and we're back off and running and people are back out shopping and everything else or whatever. If they don't know who you are when the gun fires at that point in time, then what? Right? They're not going to come to you. It is kind of interesting though on a communication channel standpoint. Jeff and I had this conversation, I don't know, it was a couple of weeks ago. And so, something I realized I really enjoy doing when you're quarantining? I really enjoy going and getting the mail. It's unbelievable. You know what I mean? You think about it. This is even a medium that you're like, direct mail even just, as a communication tool is kind of cracking me up. It's like in the past, like, that dies out, it dies out. I'm like, now I go through it. I found myself, I actually have mail sitting downstairs right now. And I should throw all of it away, and I know it's going to be all junk. I'm like, well, I'm going to look through and see what's junk for sure. Normally, I would have just taken it straight to the trash can, right? I swear to God, but it's just so interesting. But no, I couldn't agree more. I think I read a recent article even on exactly what Mark was saying in terms of what it did for his business. I think it was I don't remember. I know it came out of Harvard. I don't remember if it was a Harvard professor, what the deal was, but it was showing every crisis, right, that they went back, and they showed it probably was like Fortune 100 companies and their marketing spend or communication spend through that crisis and beyond, and then what their revenue was. And it was unbelievable to see. You could see the ones that declined, the revenue declined. The ones that were flat stayed flat. The ones that went up, they went up. Like you're saying, that's incredible. 20% type of growth coming out of something like this is amazing.
So I want to be respectful of you guys' time. I said 11:15, but I have a couple questions left I want to ask that I think will be really valuable. Chris, I'll start with you. Who are you following for information right now? Who are you following for positivity? Who are you following that has been a source of, a way to lift you up? I think, if people were just watching the news at, 6 and 10, they probably wouldn't, ever leave their house. They probably wouldn't ever want to grow their business. They'd be terrified. You have to have some positivity interjected in there. So
Sure.
who are you following that's doing that for you, helping you out?
Yeah, I would say there's probably a couple different angles on this, but specifically, our company in Spectra, and really, we have a talented team, a corporate team, that's based out of Philly, and every single day we use this word fluid. Like, this is a fluid situation. So, you could sit there and your eyes could be glued to the news, and usually it's negativity and all that, but through Spectra, just following our industry experts that have been around a long time. What is happening? What tangibly are we seeing? And that gives me some comfort. We get that kind of expertise. We follow our experts in the field, and then we can trickle that down to our staff. It's like, this was mentioned a couple times, on this call that, people are scared. They don't know what's next, right? So really, instead of focusing on negative and just the news in general, it's like, what are the facts? What are we seeing? What's happening in our industry? That's great. That's one thing that I follow.
Yeah.
And then I would say the second piece is it's probably more local. Who else in my world is involved in this situation? Well, certainly the Iowa Cubs, Des Moines Performing Arts, Convention and Visitors Bureau, and talking to those folks and seeing how they're feeling, seeing how they're handling things. That helps me. Even just this call today, there's probably 2 or 3 things that I've just written down that both Mark and Jeff and even Josh that you guys are doing that I think that we probably could do. It's a little bit different, but I think we should be doing that. So I think locally, staying in touch with those folks that are impacted in a similar way, and then nationally speaking, just our business, staying close to corporate, trying to find out really what's happening, what to expect, what to anticipate. Because I think it's everything that you guys said. I mean, we're going to get through this, and hopefully sooner than later. So once we get through this, and you talk about advertising, and it's like I am a different animal than Golden Rule and even Community Choice, and that I don't promote Spectra or the Iowa Event Center. We promote and advertise our events. We don't have events going on right now, so what am I doing? But Josh, I agree, top of mind. And an ulterior motive with that ticket, the Chillin' for Charity ticket, somebody is purchasing a ticket with a Wells Fargo Arena ticket, will come to your place, they'll look at it, take some pride in it, and then that's us. So it's like when we come out of this thing, people are going to be starved for entertainment. And hopefully they'll take a look at that ticket and be like, you know what, I want to go to Cher. I want to go to Elton John. I want to even simply go to a Wild game. So we're trying to stay on people's minds too. When we come out of this thing, man, we're hitting the ground running. We're hosting events. We want people coming through. So that's kind of our promotion, just staying top of mind. But I think the rest of it is really just talking to our local folks that are in the same boat, and national folks in the same boat.
Yeah.
How about you? Who are you following?
I add something to Chris, just as we advertise in the Wells Fargo Arena, obviously with our billboards and stuff, and they're putting us out on the digital board, right? So nobody's going inside.
Right.
You get a digital board, and you're nice enough to put us out there so people driving by can at least see our advertising. I mean, that says a lot about your guys' character and willingness, how you want to take care of your clientele. So thank you.
I appreciate you saying that. And that's hard, right, guys? Like in our business, right? We're shut down. We're not shut down because we want to be. We're being told that the building's got to be shut down. So I think Mark and your end, and even Josh and Jeff and you guys, I mean, we have a lot of premium seating partners and advertising partners, and to be able to just work with them, get exposure where we have it. We have a lot more outlets. Not only do we have our digital boards, but we have our website and all that good stuff. So it's that in-kind stuff that we can trade out to keep rolling. And then just really, it's just practical and common sense stuff. It's like everybody's hurting, right? So if we're going to run a good business, we're not going to hold people's feet to the fire. So it's where it's working with them on payment plans. What else can we do? And then really just getting on the phone and talking to people. I can't tell you how many calls I've had in the last 2 weeks, letting people know, hey, we're shut down here for a little bit. But the good news is 95% of the events that have been postponed are rescheduling. And guess what? Next fiscal year, it's going to be humongous. So awesome. You'll get that impact and you'll get there. And I think it just comes to communication,
Well, and I'll jump on the accolades for your crew. Two things. I've got 2 or 3 calls from Carrie Brown, just checking in. Hey, anything we can do for you? Lori Kemet, just checking in. How are you doing? How's your business? That matters, right? And when it's not pitching, it's not selling anything. It's legitimately just checking in. That's huge. The second thing, Allie gave me a call the other day and said, hey, we're sitting on a bunch of soda. We have all this soda that's going to go bad. We want to do something with it. We want to do good for the community. Do you know anybody? I've seen some of the stuff you've done on social media. Could we give this somewhere and help somebody? So I made a call to one of the Community Choice board members and executive director at Urban Dreams, Isaiah Knox, and said, hey, could you guys use this soda? And he said, oh my gosh, we're feeding hundreds of people every day in the inner city coming in to get meals at Urban Dreams. We would love to have it. And so they went and picked up I think it was 120 cases or pallets. I mean, it was huge. I've got the photos I'll include on the video here. But just those examples,
it was all sponsored,
it's unreal.
All sponsored by one. Was the soda release all sponsored by one dental practice, or was it a mix of? No, I think that's fit. I think that's fantastic. Yeah. You asked on who to follow, though. To be honest, it is so hard to find positivity. I'm not a big social media person, Facebook, all that. I have a tendency to kind of peruse Twitter and look for opportunities. Frankly, LinkedIn is probably what I think is the most positive. At least you're seeing business stories. You're seeing people try to be positive across LinkedIn. I think that one's pretty great. Yeah, it used to be that I almost sat there in stereo with CNN on one screen and Fox News on the other screen. And to be honest, it's unbelievable that the hyper-politicized world is actually even further apart now. That I don't even think if you listen to them in stereo, you'll find the middle. I'm not sure where it takes you, but it's not the middle. But I'm with Chris too. These kind of opportunities make a huge difference in connection. But let's be frank. If you're a leader, like everybody on this call, and you're leading an organization, you're leading a team of people, where do you go for inspiration? Tough, frankly, tough. You never had a choice in the past either. Maybe other colleagues, but realistically, I think entirely your most important job is to wake up every morning and you got to come in and fill up the cups of others. You got to inspire others, maintain calm and inspire them even in times like this. And at the end of the day, your cup is empty and nobody fills yours up. That's just part of having to be a leader, right? And the next morning you come back in with yours full and you got to own it, and leadership is hard and when things are going smooth and it's definitely trying when things aren't. But at the end of the day, the inspiration is going to have to come from inside if you're built to lead.
Last question, and again, thank you all for your time. Much appreciated. If you had one piece of advice to give to a small business owner in Central Iowa right now, what would be that one thing that you hope they would take away from this? That one bit of wisdom that you would share for their teams and for their success?
Sure, it's Chris. I'll go. This probably sounds so simple, but my one piece of advice is it's probably twofold. We know we're going to come out of this situation. Things are going to get brighter. We're going to get back to business. It may not be exactly the same, but I think at least for myself and in operating a business, it's really planning for the future. Don't wait. Don't get stuck into what's going on right now. We don't know when that day is going to be, but it's going to come. It may be a month, 2 months down the road. You got to think strategically how your business is going to change, plan to adapt to that. And then again, and I've said it a couple times, once the doors open back up and people are coming back in, that we're able to hit the ground running 100%. We're ready. We're not reacting. We're proactive. And that would be my advice.
Great.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of that. Like I said earlier, it's going to cost you a lot more money to ramp back up than it is to maintain and be proactive right now. So fear is just the state of mind. That's all it is. So just don't give into it. Run your business how you would normally and be wise with your decisions, but forge forward and don't pull back because it's going to cost you twice as much money later on.
And piggybacking off of both those, I agree entirely. From a very high level, I think my question would be, I'd ask a question. I'd say, why did you get into that business in the first place? What was your reason for getting into that business that you're in, and what were your goals? Right? And so don't lose that why. Why did you get involved? And what were your goals? Don't lose the why you did it in the first place, but then come back and make the right decisions to still work towards those goals. I mean, maybe the goal line has shifted a bit, from a time standpoint, but continue to make the right decisions. And again, again, like Mark's saying, and echo that repeatedly, is, boy, building back up. Isn't there a great reference on that too when it comes to your thermostat, right? That almost, right, in some respects, that people have a tendency, they set their thermostat all the way down so damn low when they're gone for the day, and then it cranks back up at this time, but you'd be better off if you didn't adjust it so wildly, right?
Yeah, especially in the summertime, people will turn it up, and then the humidity piles in their house, and then they spend the whole night trying to get it out, and it gets comfortable in the morning, and then they shut it off. So yeah.
Yeah, but maybe there's so many parallels you could draw to that. But yeah, don't lose focus on why you got in the first place, and keep making decisions. You got to keep taking action. That's the other thing. Got to keep taking action. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, again, appreciate you guys making
I'm so
time.
sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm so sorry. The only other thing I'd say to that small business, or actually anybody that watches this, is that when you can, you should definitely get to the Iowa Event Center, host all your events in the convention center, go to every show. You have an issue when it relates to plumbing, heating, air conditioning, you call Golden Rule. And clearly, I'd say thank you to all the people watching for being members of Community Choice. I assume they are. If they're not, I'm assuming they're going to be soon. So, sorry.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you guys again. And everybody stay safe, and to steal Josh's line, stay positive and test negative. I love that. So thanks again, guys. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.